I wasn't planning on being back, but yo, ladies and gentlemen, you fellas out there, I'm back for a Sunday-only breakdown, 2-game slate because football is ending, and I need to give you as many schmacks as you can get before the year's over. Let's break down this slate. Not now, people out there, you beautiful people, but right now. And let's have a conversation. Look, I understand. Many of you likely watched my full slate breakdown, so I don't have to go through the exact stats and all that analysis as we did, but we can talk more so about strategy for a 2-game slate. If you are watching this before the Saturday game slate starts, because I'm releasing it on Friday, and you want 4-game slate content, be sure to check that out. But on this slate, I don't care. I am either going to Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and early on, I lean to go to the cheaper option in Patrick Mahomes, who has a higher team total of 28.5. Now, that being said, the Buffalo Bills defense is set up to limit the big plays, but Patrick Mahomes has been seeing that all season long, and it's been getting involved the running backs. Kelsey's been coming on, Tyreek Hill underneath. Byron Pringle has been the name you're hearing more and more about, and that's out of necessity because they need somebody to win on the underneath outside of those guys, specifically Travis Kelce, and it's been a Byron Pringle. It's been Mahomes running for 20 to 30 yards in these games on the ground to pick up an extra couple of first downs. So the way that I see the quarterback position is you can go to the Brady Stafford game. It will definitely be lower owned on this slate. I think you see Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen combined for somewhere around 70% ownership, 65% somewhere in there, and then there's going to be definitely lower ownership on Brady and Stafford. If you want to go there, I would lean to go to Brady, as I think the Rams are going to continue their trend of running the damn ball. But if I had to choose, I would go to Patrick Mahomes. I like his stacking options more. I like the price tag on his stacking options, and I just like the availability of his stacking options. There's a little bit more security with them. And what do I mean by that? So for these 2-game slates, I want to full-on stack a game environment. And when one of these games has a 55-game total versus a 48-game total, I want to go to that game that is 7 points higher. Yes, it's chalks out to go to those two. Yeah, there's only 4 quarterbacks to choose from. And when 2 of them are clearly and obviously, and just like they were last week, won everybody the slates when you played each of those guys, and Saturday and Sunday, they're going to be this week as well. So I will go to Josh Allen and Mahomes again on the 2-game slate, $500,000 first, $1 million content. That's why I'm doing this content. I am leaning to go to Patrick Mahomes, a man who continues to rush for 20-plus yards on the ground, who continues to score 20-plus fantasy points at will. Earlier this year, yes, he did not put up an insane game like Josh Allen did, who dropped nearly 40 against the Chiefs. Mahomes only goes for 21, but that was a totally different time when their offense was still reconfiguring to figure out how to beat the cover 2. Since then, they've gotten involved in much more of the running backs, different ways to use Travis Kelce and Tyreek, and more so the additions of short passing to Mecole Hardman and the emergence of Byron Pringle. So I start my lineup up, and I go and I look to try and get at least 3 guys from the same team in whatever stack I'm doing. Even if you're trying to get frisky and go to the Rams or Tampa Bay, I am going to get at least 3 guys stacked up with the quarterback. So not counting the quarterback, I want 3 other players in there, and they could be a running back, they could be a tight end, they could be receivers. I don't care on a 2-game slate. I'm fine to do all of that in terms of getting unique. I'm also fine to play a defense against my stack. I'm fine to stack up the Chiefs and also play the Buffalo defense. Why? Because there's only 4 defenses to choose from. Doing that gets you a lot more unique. I'm also fine to stack up the Chiefs and play the Chiefs defense. Because if Patrick Mahomes was to throw a pick 6 in this game, well, then he gets the ball right back, and now he's more likely to throw even more because he's either trailing by more now or the game is closer, right? Or if there's a kickoff return for a touchdown, it doesn't really affect what Patrick Mahomes could do in terms of if it was Buffalo. So that's where I'm at on quarterback. There's really not much more to break down. Josh Allen, if you want more stats on Josh Allen, he looks great. He's running for 60-plus yards in like his last 4 games and 5 of his last 6. He ran for 59 against the Chiefs last time and had 4 total touchdowns. He's been playing great, coming off of arguably the best performance by a quarterback ever in the postseason until you realize that Mahomes threw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns last week, the second quarterback ever to do that in the postseason. So arguably you can say that his performance was better. I think the Bills have a little bit more steam on them. I think they'll be a popular underdog this week for sure as 2.5-point underdogs. That will all translate and flow into the fact that I do think as it stands right now, Josh Allen will be the highest owned quarterback. Mahomes will be the second highest owned, but I'll take him as my favorite option for a cheaper price tag. So the running back position we go, and there's really only a couple of running backs who really stand out for me. If you want to go up top to Devin Singletary, I really can't blame you. The guy just is coming off of seeing 95% of the running back opportunities last week. I don't think they're going to shift away from that. You really can't run all that much against Kansas City, a slight underdog, but a solid team total. He's involved in the passing game. Kansas City can stop the run, especially with Chris Jones back on the interior, with Melvin Ingram on the outside being very solid at pass rush from what they had before they acquired him. Lets Jones go into the middle of the field. The only reason I'm not jumping up and down for Devin Singletary is because he's going to come in with ownership. I think Singletary will be the second highest owned running back on this 2-game slate. And to be honest with you, you need to find edges somewhere at this running back position. There's not many options. There's only 4 teams playing, right? There's not many options. So in terms of trying to find the guys that aren't over-owned on the slate or maybe are a little bit too high-owned, I think that's the main spot to get away from is Devin Singletary. I want to play Leonard Fournette. I don't care if I'm not playing much of Tampa Bay or the Rams. If Leonard Fournette is playing in this game, he's going to have the combination role of what you saw from Giovanni Bernard and Keyshawn Vaughn last week. I'm not concerned about Giovanni Bernard taking away Fournette's role because Fournette had that role even when Giovanni Bernard was there earlier this season before Bernard got hurt. Leonard Fournette is going to come into this game and he's going to run 25 routes. He's likely to see around 5 to 6 targets, if not more. Like, that's almost like a floor at this point. All the red zone work. I think he sees 15 touches on the ground as a 3-point favorite in this one. It is a tough matchup on the ground versus the Rams' #1 run defense, but he'll have just as much involvement as a check down guy against 2 high safeties for Tom Brady. He might even lead the team in targets this week. Fournette, to me, is the best running back playing the slate by a wide margin. After that, not interested in Ronald Jones' battling injury. Cam Akers is the guy that you have to talk about. He is quickly becoming right back to the running back 1 opportunity here. He went from 20% of the snaps to 50+% of the snaps. I have Cam Akers this week projecting out for about 14 fantasy points. You compare that to Devin Singletary, who I have for 14.8 fantasy points. And Cam Akers for this slate is decently cheaper and going to come in lower owned as of right now. Not crazy lower owned, but you know, maybe comes in 10% lower owned because there's some threat at least, right? A 95% opportunity share for Devin Singletary last week is a lot. There's at least some threat that for Cam Akers, you still see him go instead of from 50% of the snaps, maybe only jumps to 60% this week, and it's a 60-40 split where you're going to get like 80% of the snaps for Devin Singletary. But I'm okay to take that risk. We saw this guy jump from 20 to 50% of the snaps, and not only that, but he handled 19 opportunities, and he handled them well. They don't want to put too much on his plate. They want to work him back slowly, but they got him to 50% of the snaps and 19 opportunities last week. There's been no news on a setback. It is not a great matchup against Tampa Bay with their defensive line getting healthier. I completely understand that, but we have to find some leverage somewhere. He is a more explosive player than Devin Singletary. He's a bigger playmaker than Devin Singletary, and I do think he will have sneaky passing game usage like you saw towards the end of the year in the playoffs last year. After that, it's tough. Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire might return, but it might be a 3-headed backfield, and he might already just be resigned to the 3rd running back opportunity. I don't know how much they're going to want to get to him. That said, though, it will lower his ownership to probably on this slate being one of the lowest owned running backs that has a chance to see like 15 touches. You keep going down. The only other names to mention on this 2-game slate, the other Chiefs running backs. Like, the Chiefs running backs is a hard backfield to figure out. We know the other 3 running backs: Leonard Fournette, Devin Singletary, and Cam Akers. Those are the guys we're looking at. This Chiefs backfield could potentially be 3 running backs. I'm going to choose Jerick McKinnon. Oh, it's only because he did good last week. Yes, they're in the postseason, and Jerick McKinnon was able to command the 2nd most routes run of any player not named Travis Kelce last week for the Chiefs, have 6 receptions, show burst and agility on the ground against, if anything, the only thing the Steelers defense does good is stop the run against a good defensive line, or really more so not stop the run, but pass rush, but a solid defensive line relative to the rest of their defense. And now he comes into a matchup this week where the way that Buffalo Bills play their defense and will play their defense against the Chiefs is let a couple of guys sit back, which means there's going to be one guy less likely in the box, and in that secondary, if you can break through the defensive line, less guys will get there as quick to tackle with 2 high safeties. So it is a friendly matchup for a running back that the Chiefs will have. We just don't know which one is going to be used. Jerick McKinnon looked great last week. Darrell Williams was battling injury last week. He's still limited in practice this week. He was limited last week in the game. We'll see what happens with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You have to choose here. A big way to get different is playing a Chiefs running back, but who is it? Is it Darrell Williams? Is it Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Is it McKinnon? To me, McKinnon looked the best, and I think they know that. As we get to the most important, you obviously need to know about the wide receivers and how to play them and how to stack this up more so. The most important part of the slate right now, the wide receiver position, I'll let you know about the sponsor, Dibs.io. Our friends at Dibs.io. Hey, listen up. They're doing something exclusive just for this community. You can't get this if you go to somebody else. You can't get this if you just go to their website. Just for this community. Dibs.io is a real-time fractional card market. You can own fractions of cards. We've opened up some packs in the past on this site. You can get a free pack as well when you sign up. But the big thing that they're doing for the community here, if you, by the end of this weekend, if you use the code SAL on Dibs.io, there's a link in the description. If you use the code SAL, you get a free $25 credit. You can start collecting today. Today, it is this week only. You get a free $25 credit. You can open digital packs online, and you own parts of those cards, and they have real dollar value attached to them. Real dollar value, like significant, okay? It is an instant free $25 credit that then you can use to buy and sell premium products and premium cards like PSA 10s on the platform. So use the code SAL for a free $25 credit if you start collecting today. It's this week only. So by the time Sunday comes, if you're watching this on Sunday, by the end of the day Sunday, when this week is over, be sure to take advantage of it. Code SAL, Dibs.io, linked in the description. Check them out. They're a cool product. It's an awesome, innovative product. You're going to enjoy it. So we get to the wide receiver position, and this is a big difference than the 4 game. A big difference. There's no Derrick Henry expensive. There's no Deebo Samuel or Devontae Adams expensive. It's just Cooper Kupp. There is a massive, and you can do the math here, $1,800 price difference between the next most expensive wide receiver on this slate. I think Cooper Kupp is going to pick up ownership. I think Cooper Kupp will be heavily owned. If you go to an onslaught of the Chiefs in Buffalo, you might actually not get to as much Cooper Kupp, but I think people are going to prioritize Cooper Kupp, the man who's averaging over 27 DraftKings points per game on this slate. The man who on this slate, without a Devontae Adams, without a Derrick Henry, without these other expensive guys to battle him, and a lot of good value plays, like all the running backs are cheap. We'll get to some value wide receivers. It's really easy to get Cooper Kupp in your lineup. I don't think he's the best wide receiver play on the slate. I don't think he's the second best wide receiver on the slate when you factor in price point, but I do think he's a top 3 receiver and somebody that you should try and prioritize. Mike Evans will be a leverage yet again. I do worry this week because Philadelphia last week, the secondary there is not nearly as good. He moved all over the rotation. Mike Evans, he went into the slot. This matchup is going to be a concern, not because of Jalen Ramsey. I don't think he's going to see a shadow matchup. Ramsey will stay in the slot most of the time, but more so because of how, if the Rams can get their safeties healthy, how they take away the big plays, and you saw Evans have a couple of big plays last week. That said, at $6,800, you're not going to find a better leverage playoff for the 2 highest owned wide receivers this week, more than likely on this slate, and Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs. Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are underpriced on the 4-game slate. They are massively underpriced on this 2-game slate. DraftKings knows what they're doing. If you can make it easy to play the big names in the big game on Sunday Night Football, you can acquire more customers if they can fit Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs and all these guys into their lineups. Mike Evans, there is not a better leverage play that maybe we've seen all year. That said, I want Tyreek Hill. I'm playing Mahomes. I want Tyreek Hill. I know they're going to take away the deep shots. Buffalo built their defense to take away specifically Tyreek Hill. The only team that beat them last year was this Chiefs team. They said, literally, how can we not lose to that Chiefs team? Oh yeah, take away their explosive plays and make them not turn the ball over and make them put up 10 to 15 play drives against you, like many teams have then adapted and adjusted to their defenses this year. So I like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is the best wide receiver play on the slate. I just think that Mike Evans at this point, you just saw last week, he's going to be relied upon. If Mike Evans does a vintage 2-touchdown game like Mike Evans normally does, Mr. Consistent, like we said on TikTok, he's going to be a strong leverage play. I mean, these top 4 receivers, if you can fit all 4 of them somehow in your lineup, you're looking pretty damn good. But with that said, in terms of the guys above $6,000, I would rank it Tyreek, Steph Diggs, Cooper Kupp, and Mike Evans. And because of that, Mike Evans will be significantly lower owned if you want to put him in there as a one-off. I still think Tyreek Hill looks absolutely fantastic. Nothing wrong with Steph Diggs either. You then get to a range of where it's a little bit of a dead range, like Gabe Davis splitting snaps on Emmanuel Sanders. Okay, if you want to get there in a run back, slightly probably over-owned in this one for the price tag. You might just want to go to Emmanuel Sanders, who saw the same exact usage in terms of routes run last week. Gabe Davis on the field a little bit more to block for running downs. Odell's on there. He's really touchdown or bust. He's not getting downfield usage at this point. Tampa Bay's cornerbacks are healthy, but obviously the touchdowns can continue to come as Stafford has shown to trust him in big moments, in big games this year, right? In terms of 4th downs and have to score the touchdown in terms of week 17 of the NFL regular season. Going to him in the postseason in big moments and him coming up with the catches, contested catches in the corner of the end zone last week on Wildcard. So that can obviously sustain at $5,000, the only guy in the 5K range. It is a unique spot where I don't think many people get there. I think people go up to these 6K guys or they go down to this big 4K range. Like you have one guy in the $5,000 range, and I'm just trying to count it quickly on my end, like 8 guys in the $4,000 range. In the $4,000 range, like it's not that flashy, like right? I mean, look at this. Is it that flashy? Let's look at the whole $4,000 range. Gabe Davis, okay, splitting snaps with Emmanuel Sanders, the veteran. Both of those guys are in play because of how much we like that game environment. Byron Pringle is probably the best option in the $4,000 range. This dude continues to run routes, 29 routes last week. He now has multi-touchdown games a couple of times this year, and his role has increasingly expanded since we last saw him against Buffalo, where he scored a touchdown but only saw 2 targets on 10 routes because he didn't have the role he has today. But they need a guy who can win on the underneath with a 28.5 implied team total. Byron Pringle's price point barely goes up after another 7-target successful multi-touchdown game in Wildcard Weekend. I do think you're going to see a lot of ownership here, especially relative to guys who aren't producing as of late, like Van Jefferson and Cole Beasley and Cyril Grayson and Brashad Perriman. So yeah, Pringle's going to be the chalk in this range, but you can counteract that chalk by just building out a lineup that does something along these lines. Patrick Mahomes, Byron Pringle, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. Fuck it, throw the Chiefs defense in there. You have 5 guys from the Chiefs. How many people are going to do that? And on the opposite side, put in a Stephon Diggs. Now you got 6 guys from that game environment. Oh yeah, whatever, throw in a Dawson Knox. Now you got 7 guys from that game environment. How many people are going to do that, right? There's only 2 games on the slate. If this Tampa Bay and Buffalo game, if there's not 3 guys popping off, if the game finishes 20-17, 24-17, and there's not insane usage from anybody, maybe only Leonard Fournette's getting there for the most part, and you have Leonard Fournette, and the only other guys getting there are like Kupp's doing some stuff, but you can't really afford him, stuff like that. Like that can happen if this game stays low scoring, and you only need 1 or 2 guys from that game. Then yes, playing all the chalk from the KC Buffalo game, or at least some of it, and being strategic about it, is not a you can still win. Like I played the obvious Mahomes, or at least I thought it was obvious on the 3-game slate. The Mahomes plus Travis Kelce plus Tyreek plus Byron Pringle and run it back on the opposite side. I played Chase Claypool because that's all I can afford, who didn't do that well, and I still made money that week, even playing guys who busted like George Kittle and T. Higgins. A lot of people will play Mahomes and Kelce. A lot of people will play Mahomes and Tyreek. Hell, maybe they'll play them together. Not many people will then add a 3rd guy or a 4th guy from that team or game. So that's a way to get around it. From the cheap guys, right? We start to touch the $3,000 range and $4,000 flat range. Cole Beasley, on this 2-game slate, I'll say this. Cole Beasley on the 2-game slate can come into play a little bit more. Definitely not on the 4-game slate for me, but he's losing his role to Isaiah McKenzie. They love what they see in Isaiah McKenzie. McKenzie is definitely in play at $3,500. I don't know if he sees enough usage. 34% of the snaps last week. He's kind of splitting this slot role with Cole Beasley. He's much more dynamic, but Beasley is a playoff veteran who is good in the red zone. But they did manufacture 6 touches for 70 yards from Isaiah McKenzie. I would assume as you're now in an environment where you need to score to keep up with the Chiefs, why not have an extra dynamic player on the field who, when he's gotten usage this year, has been great in Isaiah McKenzie and also in past years. So I'd rather play $3,500 Isaiah McKenzie over Cole Beasley if you're choosing between the two and leave more money on the table. The guys in this range, though, at $4,000 and below that I like the most are going to be Brashad Perriman and McCole Hardman. McCole Hardman ran 25 routes last week. He's not getting as much downfield usage. The Bills will take away the downfield usage, so that is a big concern. He'll see a couple bubble screens. He'll see maybe one deep shot. You probably get 5 targets in this game. Can he connect on it at 3,900? I'm putting a yes on him just because I prefer him to these other guys. I think he has more upside, more usage, more volume compared to a Tyler Johnson, who likely goes over-owned. Tom Brady hates throwing to Tyler Johnson's way. He has been very bad. He's been very unproductive. He had 1 catch last week, but then he had dropped another wide open ball. Brady doesn't like that. Brashad Perriman I have on here as a yes because if you're going to go to anybody, right, compared to these other guys down here, like you have Hardman down here, he fits into stacks. And you can easily, if you really wanted to go, Travis Kelce, Byron Pringle, McCole Hardman, and Tyreek Hill, yeah, I can see a situation where that works out for you. It seems a little bit too cute to get that 4th guy in there. I probably don't do that. But it's a 2-game slate. If the Chiefs end up scoring 30-something points and they win by a touchdown and they got 5 touchdowns and Mahomes got 5 passing touchdowns and all those guys score, yeah, there's a chance, right? Slim chance, but there's a chance. The reason I'll say that Perriman is somebody that I'm at least looking at, I mean, he ended up seeing 25 routes last week. Tyler Johnson actually took on some of a 2 wide receiver set usage, which is a concern, but you're just going to get more downfield usage. He can win downfield more. Tyler Johnson has been a slot receiver since entering the NFL. He moved around in college, but mainly since entering the NFL with Brady, a slot receiver. He's kind of getting the Jacoby Myers treatment. When Brady was in New England with the Patriots the final year, Jacoby Myers, an undrafted free agent who people know now, was making mistakes, and he said, yeah, I'm just not going to throw you the ball as much. Tyler Johnson has done that this year. He's made a couple of mistakes, and why is Tyler Johnson, who's playing 80% of the snaps and the Chris Godwin role, not seeing more usage? Well, it's because he made mistakes and Brady doesn't go back to him. So he's been a clear outside receiver. That's where I would go if I would go anywhere. Isaiah McKenzie over Beasley, McCole Hardman and Brashad Perriman stand out. Perriman will be very low owned compared to Tyler Johnson. And then finally, tight ends. I don't have to say much here. It's the same thoughts I always have. Gronkowski likely to be the highest owned tight end, cheaper than Travis Kelce, still seeing a lot of volume. Makes sense. I do think that he'll see a lot of times we'll have to chip block in this game when you're going up against Von Miller and Aaron Donald. I do think that he'll get picked up a lot in the middle of the field by Jalen Ramsey, which isn't great. So maybe that's something to get you off of him. And then the tight ends who stand out more to me then are Dawson Knox and Travis Kelce. Tyler Higbee's going to have a tough matchup against some of those Tampa Bay linebackers and safeties. Travis Kelce and Dawson Knox look the best. Oh, yeah, they just so happen to be in Buffalo and Kansas City. Oh, yeah, I do think you can play both of them. I do think you can play a tight end in the flex. We just got through how bad the $4,000 range is at wide receiver. So instead of choosing between one of these $4,000 range wide receivers, right, of all which I really don't like Byron Pringle I like, but outside of that, you kind of throwing darts, why not just go to Dawson Knox, who had success earlier in the year? And I don't like Dawson Knox as much on the 4-game slate because there's more wide receiver options to choose from and running back options to put in your flex. But in a 2 tight end situation, I want to prioritize Travis Kelce on this slate, and I do think Dawson Knox becomes an interesting play, especially when you're trying to load up, and I'm trying to load up on that 1-game environment. Success earlier in the year against this team, success last week, and I think there's ways where he can win against this Chiefs secondary. So there you go. There's a 2-game slate. Wasn't planning on doing this. Was going to do a that one dude instead, and then I thought about it more, and I was like, if I release a that one dude on Friday, and the slate starts on Saturday, that doesn't make much sense. And then I was like, oh, wait, they're doing a Sunday slate? Okay, let's see how much. Oh, man, $1 million+ in prizes. We're covering that bad boy instead because I'm definitely playing that. So thank you for tuning in. Be sure to support the sponsors of the program today. That is Dibs.io. If you use the code SAL, you get a free $25 credit to use in their marketplace. Be sure to take advantage of it. It's literally this week only. Why would you not just get the free $25 at the very least, use it next week or something, because you can only get it right now. If you were still here to the end and had any curiosities in terms of some of the props I've taken, some other ones I've taken are Travis Kelce over a half a receiving touchdown, Stafford under, we hit it last week easily, under 270.5 passing yards. If you want to use the code SAL on prizepicks.com to take those props and many more, you get a free $100 bet there. We're giving all the freebies away this week because it's the NFL playoffs, and why not? I appreciate you all a ton. I'll see you when I see you, gang, and I'll see you beautiful people in the next one.